Mike from PA and see what he has to say about the shooting in Minnesota. Yeah, by ICE. So, yeah, this is dark times.
In an ideal society, I would like to see gun control. I think that we should repeal gun control in blue states and we should start arming and forming community self-defense organizations. We should start politically vetting all blue state military and National Guard groups. If somebody defends Donald Trump, they should not be able to serve in the military going forward. And I think one of the problems is, like, obviously the American government right now is an imperialist government, so serving in the military is serving in an empire, and that's without a doubt true. But in order for us to transition as a coherent nation, we need to have the ability to enforce our will on the imperialists. And I think this is kind of the major problem with kind of a Maoist, anarchist, third worldist, whatever the perspective on being anti-veteran. I need as many guys with guns as we can get on our side. And gals and non-binary pals, okay? It's very inclusive. We need more John Browns and less hippies with flowers. They're deploying tear gas. Who's they? The thing is, these ICE agents aren't really trained in riot control. They just show up and grab people. They're not trained in, like, riot tactics. Riot tactics are actually very difficult. Crowd control is actually very difficult. It's something that has to be professionally trained. So just standing around doing shit like this, that's not controlling anything. According to them, this is a murder to them. They're driving the car into this guy. That's a murder attempt. This guy should have according to them, he should have the ability to grab a gun and shoot the driver in the head. According to them. Guys, they like Nazis. They support the Nazi. Okay, they support the Nazi. Like, when you call them Nazis, they like that. I personally think that we need to have. I mean, the problem is the Democratic Party. I don't have any faith in them to restore any kind of social fabric. They would have to be extremely repressive of the police state that we have. We would have to have massive police reforms, and I don't think the Democratic Party even understands that. Like, we need to, like, go through and root out racism in America in the police department. We need to, like, and that would mean firing literally half the police forces of most major cities, if not more. We would be needing to arrest and prosecute people at an unprecedented rate, and I don't think the Democrats are ready for that. So basically, she was an observer. She was told to leave. She got into her car. ICE agents were all mad and yelling at her. She backed away and drove around, and a guy who was not under any kind of threat shot and killed her.
This statement coming to us from ICE. One of those violent rioters weaponized her vehicle, attempting to run over our law enforcement officers in an attempt to kill them, an act of domestic terrorism. Thankfully, the ICE officers who were hurt are expected to make a full recovery.
The reality, chat, is that the way our media is set up to operate, they take government statements and they just repeat them as if they're fact. And that is one of the major problems that we have, is we don't really have an independent media. It's privately owned, but it's not independent. And the incentives are just...
That's so true. That is so true. Around the world, all our media are owned by billionaires, and it seems like they're all right-wing Nazis right now. I guess they've always been that way. The elites have always had a leaning towards fascism. So, yeah.
Spread propaganda, and there is no journalistic enterprise anymore. Dana Splitters, friend of the show, says he's a fucking liar. The crowd is continuing getting threatened with felony arrest. I myself was threatened with arrest for being there. Dana, stay safe. There's a video of the incident, not graphic. There's no one in danger. I mean, this is just cold-blooded murder. I don't know what else to say. Okay, so the car is leaving. There are no ICE agents anywhere nearby. People say this car pulls off, they get out. Order the person to get out of the car. They start backing up. Like, there wasn't even a confrontation. The person was turning around to leave.
That is crazy. That is crazy. It's like Law and Order is breaking down. the rule of law is sort of over in the United States.
That was just a cold-blooded murder. I mean, I don't know what else to tell you. How is anyone comfortable spinning this? I want you to understand something, chat. I've been trying to explain it to you for many years. I started the stream talking about there is a small percentage of people who do not contain the same human emotion that you do of empathy, and they don't consider other human beings to be.
He's talking about Nazis. He's talking about Nazis. That's what he's talking about. And they're out and proud. There's lots of Nazis here in Australia.
Anything else but worms, grasshoppers, they think about other human beings as pawns or tools or obstruction. They don't feel feelings like you feel, and they are overwhelmingly concentrated in the right wing. It's just, it is what it is. There are people that call themselves left wing that also are sociopathic, but what separates people from the right from the left is the right thinks it's good to oppress people. That's why they're celebrating stealing Venezuela's oil, because they don't consider they don't feel like, how would I feel if my country was attacked and my property was stolen, and I wouldn't like that, and I see that as another human being. So because I wouldn't like it happening to me, I'm going to be against it happening to you. That moral calculus I just explained that a 5-year-old understands, they don't care. So what do we do about it? They've got to be stopped. It's really just that simple. And if you let these people take over your country, it ends in world war. More power you put into the hands of these type of people, they start to have more and more aggression. America's in the fascist spiral right now. We're threatening Mexico. We're threatening Denmark. We're threatening China. We're threatening Russia. We're threatening Venezuela. We're threatening Colombia. We're threatening Mexico. We're threatening Brazil. We are threatening every country in the world. We're saying either you do exactly what we say, we steal your shit, and we abuse your people, or else. Well, eventually, the fascists get confronted, and eventually they get defeated. And that's the reality. And conservatives will defend this because they like who is people, which is a good-hearted person who is against ICE going into her community and ruining and attacking people because of their skin color. Chief of Police Brian O'Hare.
And that's exactly right. I can't fault Mike's position here. I mean, that seems to be what's happening. I mean, if anyone is a student of history, this is how things. This is how sort of things kick off. Take small incidents that sort of start this sort of cascade effect. And I could be wrong, but it feels like things are only sort of going to sort of cascade and seemingly to get worse unless something sort of drastic happens.
Era here, we've heard him in recent days, as recently as just yesterday, talk about the risk that ICE poses the way that they are operating. Chants continue here, still a lot of anger here directed at law enforcement.
I mean, sorry to interrupt again, but I mean, it's kind of a thing we're seeing it all over the world, where sort of all the Western countries, all the former British colonies, basically, all the colonial countries, are all sort of falling into line. We've got suppression of our freedom of rights here. Our police are getting more militaristic. Another death in custody. But I don't think anything's going to happen until, until it gets worse and worse. I mean, at the moment, the Labor government here is just tinkering around the edges. They're not changing anything. And then eventually, people will vote, the Australian public will vote with the right. And the right will just go down this playbook. They'll become exactly like this. It's not the elites that are causing all our woes, so that we can't buy a house, so that prices are rising. This is all capitalism. And as capitalism collapses, we're in it now. Capitalism is collapsing. So people are just making a whole bunch of. They're making money off of anything they can. I mean, and Labor's not socialist anymore. They got the call from the call from America after Gough Whitlam. Yeah, they didn't like the way socialism was going with Gough Whitlam, so they had announced that it's Australian politics has always been right wing. Yeah, and that's what we've got now. Neoliberalists, centrists, you know, centrist leftists, you know, that's our current prime minister. He was on the left faction of the Labor movement. Now he's a centrist. He's playing the game. So yeah, there's no sort of hope right now.
As these investigations continue, go arrest ICE. That's what they're yelling at the moment. Just taking a moment to make sure I can hear them correctly. It's really this push that we've heard from a lot of people that they want law enforcement to actually go after ICE when they believe that they are committing an illegal act. By the way, Chad, this happened a lot. What really caused the Civil War is because the southern states forced the majority of states, slave states, forced the majority of states, which were free states, of the population to enforce the slave acts, to bring slave catchers into their community. Pennsylvania, there's a very famous case called Prigg v. Pennsylvania. Pennsylvanian law enforcement arrested a slave catcher for kidnapping and prosecuted him in Pennsylvania court. It went up to the Supreme Court, and I want you to guess what the decision was. Guess the decision. The Supreme Court threw out the conviction. Prigg v. Pennsylvania, 1842, was a United States Supreme Court case in which the court held that the Fugitive Slave Act of 1793 precluded a Pennsylvania state law that prohibited black people from being taken out of the free state of Pennsylvania into slavery. The court overturned the conviction of a slave catcher, Edward Prigg, as a result. Northern states at this time had abolished slavery, and most prohibited slave owners from bringing slaves to their states, saying they would be considered free if brought in state. Later, the Fugitive Slave Law of 1850 required even free states to support capture and return of fugitive slaves with their law enforcement, increasing penalties for non-compliance. Also, by refusing to take judicial notice of the problem of free blacks being kidnapped in free states and sold into slavery, the Prigg decision established an implicit precedent that blacks were entitled to fewer procedural protections than were whites. This is the reality is the Civil War happened because the South and conservative fascists were aggressive and wouldn't allow people to just live free. Unfortunately, we now live in the legacy of not completing Reconstruction. By the way, Chad, notice what Asmongold will say about Ashley Babbitt as she was storming the Capitol trying to steal the election and was smashing a door violently in order to attack and calling for the hanging of various congresspeople illegally.
Yeah, what I noticed nobody talks about her anymore. Nobody. She was a big martyr at the time. But yeah, nobody cares anymore, it would seem.
Trespassing and rioting, they'll call that cold blood. This lady complying and turning around her vehicle and then just getting shot with no warning, they'll say is justified. I want you to understand something, Chad. We are in a cold civil war and it's rapidly going hot.
That's brutal. That's pretty full on. I mean, to hear it like that, but yeah, to hear someone saying that, it's sort of like watching the fall of Rome. So yeah, this is the state of affairs right now. The empire is sort of like in a dangerous spot right now. It's on its decline. It happens throughout history, and I think this is the start of the decline. Okay, I think that should do it. That's it for me. If you made it this far, like and subscribe. See you in the next one.